All right, let's get right into it. We're going to tackle a massive question today. Could Bitcoin actually be the ultimate shield against inflation? It's a pretty bold claim, right? Well, we're going to break down exactly how this is supposed to work based on the case that's being made. So let's dive in. You've probably been wondering this yourself. I mean, that feeling you get at the grocery store or when you're watching the numbers fly by at the gas pump? Yeah, you're not imagining it. That is inflation in the real world, and it's the heart of the problem we're looking at today. So, what is actually happening when we talk about inflation? Well, at its core, it's the slow, steady erosion of your money's purchasing power. Every single dollar you work for, every dollar you save, it's buying a little bit less tomorrow than it does today. Think of it like a silent tax, just chipping away at your wealth, year after year after year. Now, you might see numbers like 3.2% or 2.7% and think, that's not so bad. But here's the thing. This isn't a one-time thing. It compounds. It builds on itself, year after year, steadily eating away at the value of your savings. And according to the argument we're exploring, this isn't an accident. It's a built-in feature of our current financial system. So what's driving all this? Well, the core argument is actually pretty simple. It's that as more and more money is created out of thin air, the value of every single dollar already in your wallet goes down. It's just basic supply and demand, right? When the supply of something goes way up, its individual value goes way down. Okay, so this is where Bitcoin enters the conversation as a potential solution, because it's an asset that just operates on a totally different set of rules. Unlike the money we're used to, its rules aren't decided by a committee in some boardroom. Nope, they are permanently locked into its computer code, and they can't be changed. And this number right here, this is the most important rule of all. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, full stop. That's not a policy goal that can be changed or a promise that might be broken. It's a mathematical certainty baked into the system. This absolute unchangeable scarcity, that's the entire foundation for its case as a long-term store of value. So let's put these two side by side, because the difference is just stark. On one hand, you have traditional money, we call it fiat currency, with a basically unlimited supply controlled by central banks. On the other hand, you have Bitcoin, with a strictly fixed supply that's governed by math and code. One system is pretty much designed to slowly lose value. The other is designed for absolute scarcity. But it gets even more interesting, because this scarcity is actually programmed to increase over time. It happens through this really unique built-in event called the halving. Roughly every 4 years, like clockwork, the amount of new Bitcoin being created gets cut in half. It literally gets harder and harder to make new coins, which automatically tightens the supply and makes the existing ones that much more scarce. Okay, so if Bitcoin has this potential as a powerful store of value, how do you actually use it day to day? Well, the strategy our source material suggests is a little counterintuitive at first. The idea is you don't actually spend your Bitcoin. You hold on to it and you borrow against it. And this analogy right here is what makes the whole strategy just click. Think of your Bitcoin like it's digital real estate. You wouldn't sell your house piece by piece every time you needed some cash, right? Of course not. You'd borrow against its value. And the idea is to treat your Bitcoin the exact same way. Let's just walk through a super simple example of how this would work. First, you hold onto your asset. Let's say you have $50,000 worth of Bitcoin. Step 2, you use that Bitcoin as collateral to borrow cash, say 25,000 bucks. And now for the most important part, step 3. You still own all of your original Bitcoin. It's just being held as collateral, giving you cash to spend, while your main asset can potentially keep growing in value. So why would you do this? Well, the benefits are actually pretty huge. For starters, you get cash to live on without ever having to sell your asset. Because you're not selling, you also avoid triggering capital gains taxes. And maybe most importantly, you get to keep all of your exposure to Bitcoin's potential growth. You let your core asset keep working for you. And now we get to what is, for me, the most fascinating part of this whole strategy. It's where the very thing we started out trying to escape, inflation, gets completely flipped on its head and can actually start working for you. This is the big idea. Instead of inflation being this force that's constantly draining your savings, this strategy aims to turn it into your ally. So, how on earth do you benefit from the very thing that's supposed to be the problem? Here's how that dynamic plays out. You borrow and spend dollars, an asset that, as we've established, is designed to lose value over time. Meanwhile, your actual wealth, your collateral, remains in Bitcoin, an asset designed for scarcity. So you're basically paying back your loan over time with cheaper and cheaper dollars, while your core asset, your Bitcoin, has the potential to keep growing in value. So let's zoom out. How does this strategy fit into the bigger picture? Well, it's not being presented as just some clever financial trick. It's really part of an entirely new framework for how to think about building and protecting wealth over the long term. And this is where the whole idea gets so much bigger than just beating inflation. The argument here is that Bitcoin represents a fundamental shift toward a decentralized financial system, one where individuals, not massive central institutions, have the final say and control over their own wealth. This timeline kind of shows you the proposed evolution. I mean, the past decade was all about outperforming traditional things like gold and real estate. The present is about using it as that core layer of wealth to protect against inflation. And the vision for the future? For Bitcoin to become a fully integrated, maybe even foundational piece of the entire global financial system. And all of that brings us to this final, really provocative question. We've just walked through the argument against a financial system that's governed by human policy and decisions. So it leaves us wondering, could a system that's governed purely by math and code really be the future of how we store wealth? It's a huge idea to think about. Thanks for tuning in.